Rumors began to spread on a misty Highland morning when a local resident accidentally saw two luxurious black cars entering an ancient chapel deep in the Glenfinnan Valley. At first, no one thought it was a big event. But when they recognized the familiar figure of Sam Heughan getting out of the car, along with a woman with a gentle smile and a graceful gait, Caitriona Balfe, everything immediately exploded into the biggest secret the village of Glenfinnan had ever witnessed. St. Aidan's Chapel, which had been abandoned for many years, suddenly lit up that day. The candles flickered as if waiting for a sacred ceremony. There were no reporters, no noisy crowds, the quiet atmosphere seemed to hide what two hearts had been waiting for nearly a decade. A secret wedding. A vow that had never been published. And two people who thought only belonged to the screen. The story began 2 weeks ago, when Sam disappeared from public life. His manager said he was on hiatus, and fans speculated he was preparing for a new project. Only those closest to him knew that Sam was preparing for the most important moment of his life. Caitriona, who was in Dublin with her family, received a handwritten letter, something Sam had stopped sending in years. "If we ever made a promise, I want to keep it today." It was just one sentence, but it was enough to make her heart flutter like the first time she saw him at an Outlander audition years ago. In that moment, she knew that the old promise, the promise they had both made to themselves, was now about to be written into reality. At the chapel, Sam stood alone at the altar. He wore traditional Scottish garb, a kilt with the Mackenzie crest he had always been proud of. Standing strong but hiding a deep expectation in his eyes. He had experienced thousands of romantic scenes, hundreds of kisses from Jamie for Claire, but this real moment, Sam's moment with Caitriona, made his hands tremble slightly. The chapel was immersed in yellow candlelight, the smell of old wood mixed with the scent of Scottish heather made this place seem to recreate a part of the soul of Outlander itself. Rustic, wild, and full of magic. Light footsteps echoed. Caitriona appeared in a simple white dress, not too fussy but surprisingly elegant. Her hair was loose, wavy, her eyes shone with the spirit of someone who had decided to step onto a path of no return. When she approached, Sam could not take his eyes off. In that moment, both he and she were no longer actors, no longer colleagues, no longer needing to carry any distance that the world still imposed. They were just two people who had been through so many seasons, so many scandals, so many rumors, and yet they stood there, facing each other, as if the world outside could never truly understand what was between them. "I'm here," Sam said in a low voice, as if afraid that even a louder sound would shatter the dream. "We've waited so long, Sam," Caitriona replied, and her smile lit up the room. The ceremony was surprisingly simple. No expensive rings, no fancy flowers. Just two hearts and an old priest who had been a friend of Sam's family. He asked, "Do you agree to keep this woman, to love her and protect her through all the trials of life?" Sam looked her straight in the eyes. "I have agreed, for a long time." Then turning to her. "And you, do you agree to keep this man, even if the world misunderstands or opposes, even if the spotlight changes?" Caitriona took a deep breath. "I agreed, from the first day he looked at me and called me Claire." They both laughed softly, but that laugh contained too many memories, years of togetherness, times of fighting rumors, times when they were the only ones to lean on each other. When the priest declared them husband and wife, Sam pulled her into his arms. This kiss was unlike any other scene in a movie. There were no cameras, no director shouting cut, no audience waiting. Just Sam loving Caitriona, and Caitriona loving Sam. Outside, a light snow began to fall like a blessing from the Scottish land. After the ceremony, they did not hold a big party. Just the two of them walked along the lake near the chapel. The calm water reflected the silvery sky, and the cold wind brought a strange peace. "How long do you think we can keep this secret?" Sam asked. "Not long," she smiled softly, "but sometimes the best thing is not keeping a secret, but knowing when to share it." "So when is the right time?" Caitriona put her arms around him, resting her head on his shoulder. "When we're ready to stop hiding." Sam looked down at her, his eyes soft. "So today, we're not hiding anything from each other." And they kissed in the cold wind, in the land that had brought them together in the first place. News of the secret wedding spread only 3 days later. Not from paparazzi, not from film crews, but from an old woman who lived next door to the chapel, who saw them leaving in the evening light. When reporters swarmed in, the chapel was empty. Only the heather petals scattered on the stone floor remained, the fragile traces of the simplest, yet most genuine wedding two hearts had ever laid on the altar of destiny. And Sam and Caitriona? No one knew where they were. But somewhere in Scotland, where mists hugged the hills and winds blew through the violets, They were surely living the first days of the marriage they had waited half their lives for.